today. I'm Debbie. I am head of developer relations at Lit Protocol, which is a privacy, encryption, and programmable wallet protocol. And so I'm going to hand it over.
My name is Nick. I'm from Manage Network. I am a lead backend developer, so mostly responsible for everything connected with our Manage wallet and some stuff connected with Finder as well.
Hi guys, I'm Arsene. I'm a co-founder and CEO of DAOism Systems. We are like an DAO builders house and think tank. We build custom DAOs and on-chain systems. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Manu, and I'm one of the founders of Doing Good, and also one of the founding members of API 3 DAO, and part of Metacartel and multiple other DAOs.
So let's kick it off with our first question, where do you see the state of privacy currently in DAOs?
Well, like current privacy, I think it's not. I don't believe in privacy right now, actually, to be honest. I think it's there is no any privacy. It just depends how much you need to spend to find someone. Actually, that's the only issue that you have. So it's most of the blockchain ecosystem, most of the Ethereum ecosystem is a bit private if nobody's searching for you. But if someone needs to find something, it's pretty easy because of the whole infrastructure, technical infrastructure of the nodes, of the RPC endpoints, of the availability of them, of the all services that are linked to it. Basically, it's very easy to track any user, any wallet actually right now using some Web2 services like Cloudflare or something like that are mostly large companies that are pretty compliant with all the requests from any government. So they can just send all the data, all the logs, all the IP addresses of you connecting to any other RPC endpoint. And even if you are using your RPC network endpoint, you still need to pay for the internet, you know? You can't run it somewhere in cafe. And actually, it's very hard to be private right now. And I'm just talking about how to send some RPC call to the nodes, not talking about how to send funds inside Ethereum.
Yeah, I actually would agree with this point. I would say that privacy is not at the best state right now. A little bit more of like a macroeconomic or like political perspective that I think we as crypto community right now are under attack. It's not really clear. Our regulators are trying to digest us and, built in their system, or they rather want to completely eliminate this, alternative financial systems that we represent. And I would say that in the DAO space specifically, we are not mindful enough about privacy and anonymity. Do you know this dichotomy between like solar punk and lunar punk? And I think right now in the DAO space, we are like super solar punk and don't think about, our own safety. We just like very happy and, doing things, but it might turn into different direction.
When we talk about privacy within DAOs, definitely there's no privacy within DAOs when it comes at least to where the money is flowing in and also going out. When we talk about if we're talking about basically contributing to a DAO as a private person, then it might be, depending on the DAO, it might be, let's say, feasible to do it. But yeah, I think that also there's this narrative, as Arseni was saying, about solar punk and lunar punk. I personally think that it's just a narrative. And at the end of the day, we can use, we can have transparent systems that are also privacy preserving at the same time. It's just that we need to be aware of it and we need to actually build using those type of systems. But currently, most of the systems that we use are very transparent. So yeah, it's a matter of time until, let's say, our collective consciousness gets to a point that we need to start protecting the people that are working with us and protecting the people that are transacting with us. And yeah, I think that it's just a matter of time until that narrative gets out there and we start just building things that are more privacy preserving.
Yeah, so going along those lines, what are the tools you see people using in order to preserve privacy for DAO members?
yeah. So for DAO members, I guess it 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 starts well. The main problem is that wherever we go on the internet, we are being observed. It doesn't matter where you are. Like there's some people that say, I'm not gonna create a Facebook profile or I'm not gonna create a Google account because I don't want Google or Facebook to watch me. But in reality, in every single website that you visit, there's a Facebook pixel, there's a Google pixel. You're being tracked no matter where you are. And also like if you're using, let's say, Discord and so on, that data is going to a centralized server. For sure, you can try to preserve your privacy by, let's say, using, let's say, VPNs and using accounts that are not linked directly to your identity and so on. But the state right now of the internet that we use is not a private internet. So we need to be aware of that. Like we are exposed whatever we're going. As I said before, like even if you don't have a Facebook account or a Google account, you're being tracked. You're being put a number. And maybe they don't have directly your name and your let's say, identity linked to your, let's say, user profile, but you do have a user profile and you're being identified by any of these companies. And basically, if any government wants to find us, as he said, it's just a matter of how much money you're going to put behind to actually look and find the people behind these projects. So, yeah, again, there's a lot of people that can really contribute in a privacy preserving way, but they have to be mindful of their own privacy themselves and not the organizations.
Yeah, I think if you want to go completely dark and to be like private, you should start from learning Linux command line and really kind of learn protocols of like, computer communication and how to stay secure. And Manu has mentioned VPN, but VPN is actually not really privacy preserving. It's even more dangerous because all your traffic data and everything, it just got stored on that like virtual access point server, and then they can just sell it. It's for example in China, right? If you're in China, you cannot really use Facebook or any outside internet. You have to use internal one. But then you can have access to the outside internet through VPN. And then it's not public, but I think that most of the VPN providers that are operating in China, they're government approved, and they give out all your entire browsing history to the government. And that makes sense from the government sort of perspective. So yeah, it's I would say going dark is hard nowadays.
So I'm actually agree with all of you, and just want to add basically that maybe we start from what is privacy, and basically there are multiple levels of privacy, and actually it's not very transparent what is legal and what is illegal privacy nowadays, and it depends on what are you doing with that privacy. If you need to be private to do some pretty bad things, it's absolutely it's the only way how you can make it is doing another illegal things to make it to be private. So basically what I see, some use cases how hackers do this, they basically use some others' laptops. The only way how you can be private if you are doing something like this is only breaking the law. For example, using other credentials, other accounts. So basically, you're just another entity for everyone else. It's like social engineering stuff. And actually, it's all connected. So if you're talking about some basic privacy as general privacy, there is no any law or anything that is that states it. So basically, you need somehow to handle it for yourself. And I think if you're talking about this privacy for the DAO, it's pretty obvious. It's something like you just need to use some new accounts on basically most of the DAOs memberships on some actions happening on the. I'm talking about Ethereum ecosystem. So you need some coins, you need some money on your account, some Ethereum, for example. And the option how you can do this is just using some exchanges. Maybe not Coinbase one, but something something classical one, like Binance one, maybe something more that don't care a lot about KYC and something like that. Some of them have it, some of them have it like this. And the way how you can be a bit private for participate, so nobody can track you not from government, but from your friends or from other groups that want to track you somehow, it's just use some Binance accounts, maybe just deposit funds from Binance account to the Ethereum side and participate somehow. And each time you do participate somehow, just create another account. That's like basic privacy, what I can recommend, what can be works. But it's not about fundamental privacy. It's just about not being interacted by some of your friends or someone in this DAO. Yeah.
Well, one thing that Arseny was saying was regarding the VPNs, and he's right. He's definitely right. Like, you're trusting that single, let's say, point of failure, which is the VPN provider now. But there's also other ways of doing it as well. There's an operating system called Cubes OS, which essentially allows you to create a virtual machine every time that you open a new window, and that virtual machine basically just gets and that's it. You're always getting a new Mac ID. You're always getting like a new, let's say, identity for your let's say, hardware that you're using. And yeah, I think that there's going to be more and more tools like that will come out. And actually, when I say Cubes, it's not like a new operating system. It's actually quite old. And yeah, there's more things, but it's actually very, as he said, very technical first. You have to be very technical in order to, for example, get to Cubes OS. And then also, if you really don't want to leave trace, like it becomes more and more expensive as well, and time consuming. Actually, it's not about the price; it's more about the time and let's say things that you need to do in order to get to that point.
Just want to add that basically, I think that if you want to be private, it's actually you're fighting the system right now, because all the system works that you need to be tracked somehow. Everything works to be tracking. And if you want to be private, it's shared. It's not about specific chains on Ethereum. It's not specific VPNs. It's actually the whole ideology. You need to think like a private person. You need to behave like to do internet somewhere, not pay for it on your apartments. You need to go somewhere where it's hard to track. You need to use some software for that. You need to use like some money options for that, some blockchains for that. It's like more like ideology right now. If you want to be private, we can't like discuss it separately for Ethereum, for example, how to make Ethereum transaction privately, because it's not private. You will be tracked from other source, from other relay. That's what I just want to add.
Awesome. I want to kind of take it a step back and have y'all answer this question on what does privacy mean in a DAO context, and what does privacy kind of enable or supercharge?
So I think,
yeah, I guess like as Nick has mentioned, in the DAO context, privacy means that sort of general public doesn't know your identity or where your like credentials are coming from, and it's maybe less of privacy in the privacy preserving sort of sense, but more of anonymity on chain and online. And I think that is relatively easy to achieve. But yeah, if we are talking about privacy is going completely dark, then it's a whole another thing. And yeah, I would agree, it's the entire ideology. And actually, the project DarkFi is doing something like that right now. They're coming from completely LunarPunk perspective, and they work only in the Unix like command lines. And they actually, I saw a presentation. They built a completely anonymous DAO when no one knows the identities of the DAO members, no one knows who voted for what, and it's like completely dark, completely anonymous. So I think that we are actually, as we've mentioned, this like SolarPunk and LunarPunk ideologies. Most probably at some point we are going to use both. So we are going to have something like a day job as working for like open DAO and passing like open proposals and work for them and pay taxes and be a good citizen like Neo in the Matrix. And then maybe at night we can go to DarkFi and join this like anonymous DAOs and do something not very visible.
I think that when we talk about privacy, we need to think there are many different ways of being private. Are we talking about contributing as a private person, or are we talking about a DAO making decisions in a private way and not necessarily exposing it to the whole public? Or what are we talking about? So yeah, we first need to identify what is the goal when we say, okay, privacy within a DAO. So if we're talking about being, let's say, private in terms of the decisions that are being made between the core team and the public, let's say. So currently there's people that are using, let's say, token-gated communities and so on in order to have some sort of privacy within those groups. But then if we are talking about contributing as an anonymous person, then that's completely different, I think. And as Arseny said, I personally believe that we're going to see DAOs that have some sort of privacy-preserving parts and other ones that are completely public. And they should be public. Things that should be public. Let's say that if you're doing public goods, it should be public. It says on the name, public goods. So if you're actually, transacting and trying to, let's say, do something that might be seen bad by certain governments, then I understand that you might want to preserve your privacy. Me as a, let's say, Venezuelan, when I was in Venezuela, let's say, trying to fight the government, I had to use different ways to communicate with my friends just because I didn't want the government to see what I was texting to my friends. And so, yeah, I think it all depends on what is the goal of the DAO, why the DAO needs privacy. That's what we need to understand first. It's not like it's white and black. I think there is a spectrum that we cannot be so binary. And I actually really dislike the ideology that we have to say there has to be dark or light. I think we need both. And we need to be conscious and we need to be aware of both in order to succeed and actually achieve what we want, which I guess is freedom for humanity.
I think we have a question from the audience.
Yeah, I really liked your comment about that's not like black or white in DAOs, and that it depends somehow. I think there is a really good academic framework for this from Helen Nissenbaum, which is I think a quite renowned researcher in the field, called Privacy as Contextual Integrity. And this framing is kind of how basically where you say, privacy depends on kind of the information and the norms that are being challenged in a certain situation. So for example, when I go to the doctor and I tell my doctor about how my foot hurts, then the context is that the doctor is going to treat my foot. But if then the doctor goes ahead and sells this information to a pharmaceutical company, exactly, then that would break the contextual integrity of when I was basically giving this information to treating my foot. So I think that I think you kind of said that in what you just said, and so yeah, I think that's just want to contribute that. Thanks.
So I just want to add that I do believe that we want to talk maybe more about, if you're talking about DAO, it's a lot about communicating between members, and maybe there are some tools for messaging between DAOs. And I think by default, currently a lot of people just have anonymous Telegram accounts and use anonymous messengers for that, because privacy, it's always like CAP theorem, it's always between to be too private, it will be not so effective to communicate with team members, and otherwise it will be very convenient, but absolutely not private. Like having public calls with Zoom, with their faces, it will be sometimes effective. Or meetings, physical meetings, sometimes it will be effective, but not private. So it's like a balance. You need to find the balance between all of that. And I think that's maybe currently one of the main balance that I see in some DAOs that I am a member. It's mostly people just are anonymous and they have anonymous Telegram account and they just use the anonymous messengers to be anonymous, mostly. If you're talking about communications, of course.
But I will argue that actually most of those people that we think are anonymous are not really anonymous. They're actually pseudonymous. You're building some sort of reputation, you're building some engagement with them, some of, let's say, some way to interact with them, and you know who they are. You might not know their real name, but you're interacting with X person, So they're not really anonymous in one way or in another. So I really don't understand like how we think that we're going as a human species going to coordinate completely anonymous without knowing who is the other person that you're talking to. There's no context and there's no relationships that you're building there. So to me, it's quite hard and quite, let's say, dystopian actually to think about a society where everyone is completely anonymous. Because yeah, so then what is the relationship that we create with our friends or with our, let's say, possible, let's say, other members of the DAO? Like you're building a relationship, and then that doesn't match with anonymity.
I do agree. I just think that it's a balance. Like it's like something that is going by common sense sometimes, because it's like too anonymous. I think there are some DAOs that are absolutely anonymous. There are some tools for that. You can use some own messengers. You can set up your own messenger, trying to have some like general ways how you can communicate without any identifiers there. But it's very painful right now, and it depends on the tasks that your DAO is going to do. I think.
But do you mean like the identity is always changing, or what does that mean? Like to me, like I come in and I start contributing, and I'm person one that I started contributing, and I start talking to you, and you know me as a person one, and then the next day I'm person two now, or person 120.
Yeah, like this, you don't know.
So then how do you create like value conversations and meaningful relationships with the person that you're building if the identity is always changing? How do you know that the person in the other side is someone that actually you can trust, and that is actually someone that you can, delegate things to, because basically you have established a relationship with them? So to me, that's like the part that I really don't get.
From my point of view, like basically you don't trust anyone in anonymity. Like it's default that you don't trust any people. You don't only trust mouth, and that's it. And when you communicate with something, you just communicate by specific thread. Like there is idea, you're just going to brainstorm about this idea, getting some information about that, and somehow find a solution. It's not effective. It's like it's really not effective. It's not how it can be maybe gonna make it. But that's how I see it sometimes works. It's just a lot of random dudes with some access going in and out and communicating about that. You don't have any guarantees. You can't trust anyone. It's just how it works. It's like dark web. I don't know. Like it's not dark web, but it's like just web. You can't trust anything until you get some proof on the blockchain of some solution like that.
Sorry, but I don't want to live in a world where I don't need to trust anyone, because then what relationships am I building? To me, that's not really meaningful if I always need to be in a state of mind that I should not trust anyone. It's kind of like, we humans, we're driven by two forces, or fear or love. And to me, it feels that we want to be driven by fear, and I personally don't sign up for that.
I'm agree with you, but I just want to say that it's specifically for the DAO tasks. For if you want to be private, it depends. Like I maybe also don't see that there is any other good way how everyone can communicate in only one specific way. It will be always like dozens or thousands of ways how you can communicate, how you can build some structures, some groups, and how you can behave there. Some groups are pretty trust based and pretty human based, like human interactions. And it depends, and it depends on the task, on the situation, from my point of view.
Precisely because of what you said, it's a human thing. We need to build context, and we need to build relationships. So to me, when we talk about creating as a human collective, and if there's no trust, what are we building?
I'll chime in here, and I think that's a very important discussion. But I just wanted to mention that why are we talking about privacy at this moment? We are talking about privacy because there are certain actions that regulators are doing against our community, and some people end up in jail without committing any crime, but just for writing open source software. And then I would philosophically totally agree with you that trust is an important part of human communication. But then when your community is in danger, maybe you have to start questioning yourself about the trust and being public about what you're doing. I guess especially if you're working with privacy technology, especially with the technology that allows you to do things that, for example, Tornado Cash allowed people to do.
But then we're talking about, like the utility of the protocols, and we're talking about the purpose of what we're building. If we're talking about the purpose within a community, which is, actually to come together and build something, then I think that we're on the same page. You need to have some sort of, let's say, relationship, right? But if we were talking about building these specific things that are private, then you need to take other precautions because you want to protect your community, as you said. So I think privacy, again, it really depends on what is the purpose of it. And that's what we need to ask first. It's not like everything needs to be private because we're afraid. I think that we just need to first understand why we need privacy, what are the motives, and then focus on hopefully achieving it by using those technologies. But then again, if you're going to be building those technologies, you need to have meaningful connections with the people that you're building.
Yeah, thank you, Manu, for saying that. Like, I think that we really need to build it with this purpose in mind of like, what are we building? Who are we building with? Where is that trust that's needed? And then what are the tools that will enable these organizations to build in the way that fits their needs? And so maybe an organization might need to be fully private, fully anonymized, and they do trust in a different way where there's so many different solutions like verified credentials now. There are different ways of thinking about identity. And so that might be one way an organization might be centered around. Or Manu, like there's these different spots where it really matters that someone has their name out there, and it really matters who they are and what they've built with and who they've built with. And so I think privacy is a spectrum where it's not a one size fits all. It's really that balance as well. And then when we talk about, for Arseny, we're talking about Tornado Cash and these sanctions too. It's what does that mean in the context of what people are building and how they're building? And so I kind of want to transition the conversation to how are these sanctionings affecting DAOs, and how are DAOs thinking about, when governments try to stop these like protocols or tools from working, how do DAOs work with that?
I want to start just to add a bit about like that right now we are like trying to be pushed out of the privacy by default. And I think it's, I just want to give an example why actually we need some basic privacy right now. There is, like, there is a lot of cases right now when, for example, some large company that gets bankrupt right now, and I don't want to name it, but the CEO of this company just cashed out before their bankruptcy for $10 million. And you know what is this company. So basically, they just sent all information about all their clients publicly, with all information of their addresses, all their names, all the amounts they store there, just to the open source. And that's the basic example where we need some open privacy, because it's fundamentally hurts you. Right now, it's if you will not change it, if you will not change the rules, how the government for looking on it, like soon you will be fucked up by default on each situation. All your bank account, everything will be hacked in the end of all. Sometimes in 10 years, in 1 year, in 20 years. But one day, all your data will be leaked, and it doesn't matter what are you using or not using too. And that's why right now we need like some fundamental changes in terms of community, how we look on privacy, how we just need to have a statement that privacy must be by default. Nobody can collect any of your personal data. It must be controlled by government, and it must be treated like very serious. So if anyone collects your data without your permission, this person must be like going to jail. This person must be fucked. Otherwise, we will have the same situation as we do have right now. Doesn't matter which laws we have, like GDPR, all of that doesn't work. In the end of all the companies, they just release your public data everywhere, and they don't go into jail. Like compared to like Alexei Pertsov on Tornado Cash, who doesn't sell anyone anything, don't have anything. There is no any proof of what he's doing. He's just in jail, and some people who cashed out for $10 million, who are going bankrupt, they send all public data about all their users to the network, and all of them right now are in danger because of that. they don't have anything about the jail. That's why we need to think about, in the privacy terms, I think we need to focus on the laws and trying to explain to our community, to people around us, that privacy is matter right now, and it's matter in terms of just how you can behave in the internet, how you can behave everywhere. So, and I won't continue to talk about what we can do right now, what we need to do with this privacy. I think that's the main point. What we can do right now is basically to place public awareness about all these cases that's happening right now. Specific examples where people are getting racked somehow by exposing their public data, and that's the only way how we can make it, from my point of view.
Yeah, I agree. So the original question was about DAOs and what DAOs can do to preserve privacy, and how DAOs react to the recent news about Tornado Cash, and also, by the way, about SEC claiming their jurisdiction over Ethereum, which we haven't mentioned yet. And my answer is that DAOs do not care at all. One of the reasons why we had idea about this panel and just have an open conversation about it, because it's not even the topic. Those things happened, and then at least how I've seen it from my perspective in the DAO community, the community just looked at those issues and said, "Oh, those are very uncomfortable thoughts to think about. I will just turn the other way and then keep doing my thing." And that's what happened. And then the other week I went to Prague, to Parallelny Polis, where they have this crypto anarchist conference, and they were talking about it all the time. And then we, me as a representative of Ethereum community, I was thinking, why are we not talking about it? Have we forgotten the roots of the movement, the roots of why we joined this space at the beginning, just because we wanted to create these alternative systems where we are not being constantly observed and constantly monitored, and put it on the list, and with all our behaviors and everything. And it seems that we did forget that in the general excitement of the growth of crypto prices, and just everything was happening, and we were building these amazing technologies and communities and getting popular and getting richer, and then we kind of we've forgotten about where we are coming from.
I just want to add that I agree with that. Obviously, actually DAO don't care, but until some members were jailed and it shuts down, basically there is no. Sometimes I think there is no very simple easy transition between legal and illegal. It's just most of the DAO are not sanctioned, to be honest. There is no any. I can't remember any case where a specific DAO was sanctioned. Even Tornado Cash, their DAO wasn't sanctioned. There were specific entities smart contract entities, they were sanctioned, and somehow some members were jailed. But in the end, the DAO was closed because they see the real danger for the DAO members to be jailed or to be treated as terrorists. That's why they're closed. And I think that's how DAO reacts to the sanctions. It just depends on the case. Right now, there is no general policy for them. Most of them don't have any issues with government, and nobody wants to track or somehow to force them to be compliant. But most of the DAOs that somehow have any issues with government, I can't remember any of them, because actually I think all of them are closed on the beginning, and they are almost shut down. Most of them, not all of them. But it depends on the government also, of course, because if it's the United States of America trying to track you and trying to fight with you, you are fucked up, and you have no choice until to be shut down. It depends on your government, of course.
I think that currently, thanks to what happened with Tornado Cash, there's this narrative, as Seni was saying, that we need to go dark and so on. And I personally think that that we cannot be completely radical in that way. I think there has to be a balance on what we put. Let's say, what do we have public and what do we have private. So I think that we cannot really be, let's say, completely radical on one side or on the other side. As you said, I believe privacy is a spectrum, and we just need to find the right balance for that. Why? Because if we want to be completely private, then who are we going to attract to the DAOs? When right now, the only way to contribute in a very, very private way really is only if you're technical. So are we really being inclusive if we're only being completely 100%, let's say, private? I don't know. Doesn't sound to me very inclusive. So yeah, we first need to educate and then create, let's say, tools for people to do it easily. Right now, it's not easy to actually be private. So first, we need to educate. We need to create awareness about the state of where we are. And then, obviously, thanks to that awareness, we're going to be creating tools that are going to help us out with it. But yeah, right now, I think that if we want to create a DAO and be inclusive and at the same time be private, it's pretty much impossible.
Sweet. Let's hand the mic over here.
I think after the Tornado Cash shutdown, there is like a working group that is trying to, I think, bring it back up. And I think like one of the narratives of why it was why Tornado Cash addresses were sanctioned was like this idea that like an evil regime like North Korea was also able to money launder their like hacked funds through Tornado Cash. And then the proposal, I think the most practical proposal that we have heard, and that I think Amin Soleimani also posted on ETH Research, is this idea of like Tornado Cash, but with permission pools. So just to quickly explain, it would be like Tornado Cash, but you kind of like have to create like this set of members that can like launder their money with you somehow, or mix it. I guess it would be a more a neutral term. But anyways, I wanted to understand what you think of that, because I think like on one side that seems to be like a solution that might not run into the problem of like getting sanctioned by the US. But on the other hand, that doesn't seem to be permissionless anymore. So like, where do you like? What's your opinion on that? I don't know.
Just want to think that like from this point, there is no solution right now, and nobody knows it, because everything right now is changing so dramatically fast. I mean, before like crypto, all entities and all financial entities and everything, almost any activity was pretty physical related to some specific geography point. Like if you are doing something, you're living in the United States, you must be comply with United States of America laws. Or like if you are living in Russia or North Korea, you need to be compliant with their local laws. And right now it's very hard. Like the whole Ethereum concept, the whole blockchain concept, it's very hard to say which entities. It depends on geographically. It depends, because what is Tornado Cash smart contract? Is it entity that must be compliant on the United States of America and then North Korea? And what if, for example, there are different laws that are absolutely like, I don't know, like the opposite to all of them? For example, there are some, like, let's imagine some laws in China that are against LGBT plus rules. And in the United States, you have laws help LGBT plus. How people can be compliant with that if they have the common infrastructure for the same company there? You must be breaking the laws, either Chinese, or for example, United States laws. And because of that, I think it's a big problem right now, how to be compliant. And that's how it's connected, how to behave with Tornado Cash as well. Because nobody knows how, and nobody knows how make it that everyone will be agreed on it. Right now, I think the only how it will be working, I don't know how to make it, but I see how it can be working right now, how it will go later. I think it's only depends on the government and the amount of their power, amount of their resources, how they can like behave, how they can enforce something. And I mean, from my point of view, I think that United States, they will comply all the blockchain sphere right now because there is no any resource, there is no any source that can be like fighting with them. Nobody can fight with United States, and there is no any DAO can do this. And because of that, I do believe that maybe in future all the like Ethereum ecosystem will be compliant to the United States laws. Doesn't matter you are living in China, North Korea, Russia, any other country. Doesn't depend on how compliant it is on your local country. It must be compliant on United States laws because there's the only country that can enforce using their rules outside of the United States.
So we all need Delaware DAO registration, right?
Like this, I think it will be like Delaware C Corp DAO soon. It will be like pretty the same, from my point of view. Maybe I'm too pessimistic, but I just see the real things of how it's happened, and like I just see how people react to that, and there is no any way how you can like fight with that. To be honest, like they have pretty like it's even hard to think how you can fight with that because it's like FBI, CIA, they're pretty serious guys. You can't somehow fight with them. And if they say, okay, right now we want to say that if you're doing something on Ethereum and it's illegal, we will just go for you. And that's it. You can't fight it until you can try, but fundamentally the whole how it will be working, it will be like this. How they said it. The only way how you can change it, maybe if you are a citizen of the United States of America and you can somehow try to change this policy inside the country. Maybe it will be changing like this. So in these terms, we are like a bit rely on citizens of the United States of America, how they handled it. Because from my point of view, it's like this right now.
Yeah, I think that currently we depend on these imaginary lines that we call countries and states that basically put force on us, right? So essentially, we are driven by fear because we need to be compliant depending on those, again, imaginary lines with force. And I think that the only way out of this is once our, let's say, collective consciousness understands that there's no imaginary lines of division, and actually we get rid of these countries and these states that they don't exist. They were imposed on us. So I think that first, sure, we need to abide by the imaginary lines, as you said. But yeah, I think that those imaginary lines are gonna get blurry and they're gonna be gone. And we're gonna experience it in our lifetime, I believe, and I hope.
I do believe maybe, I think they're still gone for some of the projects. It depends on the size of the projects, because if your project is a massive, like Tornado Cash, it's a massive project. It was like one of the largest DeFi like products, and they have full TVL for like millions of dollars. And it depends on the size. If you're like doing a local DAO for 5 people and you're anonymous in these 5 people, nobody cares about that. But if you are doing something like multi-billion company for washing funds across all the universe and you have like $10 billion inside locked, it will be not only like for your problem. Somebody will try to claim your like jurisdiction for you. That's maybe, I think it depends on the size of the company. And I was trying to talk about large products. I was trying to speak about corner cases, about successful fundamental products that needs everyone, like Tornado Cash sometimes. Because it's also about privacy, how you can be tracked by someone as well.
So we're going to open up to any more questions or comments from people in the crowd.
Super, this is all really interesting. Thanks very much for this. Can you hear? Super, that's good. Super, that's all really interesting and really nice. I just want to ask, let's say that we had the cryptographic solution to say, we have private transactions or whatever, we don't put it on GitHub or whatever repository, everything is safe. We have the engineering solution to solve our problem against the FBI or I don't know whoever. You want this path? Do you want this path? Do you think that it's an encouraged path?
I think it's how it's actually working right now. Like it's not so new that any government, especially United States, trying to fight the privacy in terms of like mathematician solutions in the design solutions. Like I don't remember like 20 years ago, like 90s, when there was some cryptography, it was all of that was private, and some people who doing it out open source, all these algos, in the beginning they have issues with the government of the United States because they will enforce them to make it private, because it's like illegal to make any cryptography right now. Even right now there are some issues. Sometimes they're trying to say, okay, we don't want to allow anyone to encrypt or decrypt something without our permission, without storing our private keys on our databases. I think it's related to the community. I think it depends on the community, and I do believe that our community is pretty nice, and I think in the end of all, our community will push and will fight with that stupid ideas, how you can, even on the technological way, how you can limit these solutions. Because there are too many use cases that can't be controlled by any party, and especially from technological way. There is no any option how we can trust a specific server, specific person, because it's too many point of failure here. And I do believe that because of that, in the end of all, there will be even right now, I think it's not illegal actually to have private Tornado Cash repository on GitHub. Maybe sometimes you can be fucked by some, if you are doing it very aggressively or writing something additionally to your GitHub repo. But I don't believe that right now we have some restrictions specifically for the instruments. But it depends on the level of the instrument, because if this instrument is specifically built to be used by North Koreans, they will definitely block it. But if this instrument is not for the North Koreans, if it's fundamental, if you can explain that it's fundamental, it depends on. I think it also relies on common sense of some people.
Actually, thanks for saying that. I think an interesting Tornado Cash would also be one where only good US citizens can interact with, and then it would be interesting to see if that was okay for the United States government, or if they would also find like some reason to shut it down.
Okay, any other comments or questions before we wrap up this panel?
It's about, we were kind of talking around it, and I just want to know kind of your opinion. It's a little bit out of topic, but private transactions, do you think that this will happen? Will everybody see the boxer shirts I'm buying on decentralized Amazon?
I do believe it's already happened. Actually, there is already some private transactions. If you are talking about Zcash or Monero, you can use private transactions. It depends on the scale for the community. I do believe that it will be not so scalable, to be honest. I don't think that everything will be like by default private right now. There is no any technical solution right now, or any company I know that is focused mostly on something like scalable. Maybe the only option I see that is like Ethereum community will do private transactions by default, but it's almost impossible like in the short term, because even changing consensus was so painful for us. We are waiting for years. All the fundamental changes in the blockchain are taking a lot of years to adapt to change it. And privacy by default is so fundamentally crazy, big change that I do not believe that something like this will be scalable for the whole community right now, available for everyone by default for the next couple of years. I do not believe that, like from a point of view.
Yeah, but I mean, there are some like layer 2 solutions, right? Like ZK rollups or like Aztec, those kind of protocols, which are like more private.
I'm not sure about Aztec, because I actually don't know any product on the mainnet. I don't use it on the mainnet yet. Aztec is a great company about science and research, but to be honest, I don't use their products at all. I don't see them anywhere. The only ZK like rollup that I see, it's like ZK Sync and Matter Labs guys who are doing it, who are, from my point of view, gonna make it in these terms, but they are not private at all. like private ZK is mostly not only about privacy but about scalability, and they use ZK only for scalability. They don't have any option to make private transaction at all on their blockchain, unlike on the L2 there. I don't see any L2 right now that is production ready and have private by default, to be honest. And I think that it will be not something that will be in short term as well.
So I think about privacy. Let's say you're on a DAO where like you're voting and you have on-chain voting with metadata, and the voting is within that metadata. So what I work on Lit protocol, we do like we can encrypt that metadata so that essentially, like let's say you want to use an EVM chain and you want to have the vote to be private in a sense where it's only decrypted by whoever is a part of your DAO or who has that NFT. So that's one way you can think about privacy, where who has access and what does that access control look like. So that's one thing that is currently out there and outbuilt. And I think for the future, like we still need to think about for those layer one protocols, like does it make sense to have these fully private protocols where everything is absolutely private? I don't know. You have to think about that use case. And then Manu, did you have any comments? So thank you so much for coming. I kind of want to close out this workshop by if any of the folks on this panel have anything else left to say, any last comments?
Follow me on Twitter.
From my side, like the main comment that I want to make is again reiterating that we need both. We need privacy and we need also being able to do things in public. And also I want to mention that we shouldn't be creating these narratives to fight with each other of solar punk and lunar punk. Rather, we should come together and work together for solving the things that we think are bad. And we need to do it together.
Well, thank you so much for everyone for attending.